I'm Chris Basola. I'm the founder of Neat Supply Company.
I'm Gabriel Riccioppo and a creative director and co-owner of Neat Supply Company.
Tell me a little bit about what Neat Supply Company is. How was this company founded?
Well, it's very different now than it was when we started. I started in 1996 and we were selling vintage Levi's. We started that way because I had spent the summer out on the West Coast in San Diego and there were a bunch of denim stores out there. And I came back to Richmond and didn't have a job and was looking for something to do, and I thought it would be a good idea for this area. And it took off and did very well. And then after that, we expanded into product lines that just weren't carried in the area. At that point, there wasn't an internet or email for that matter, at least unless you were at a university. This shop for 15 years, I guess, was a single boutique here in Carytown.
And tell me a little bit about the early days. You know, when you expanded beyond selling vintage Levi's and carrying full product lines, what were some of the early growing pains in getting this business off the ground? What were the big challenges?
Just figuring out that product mix is always key. Being in a small town like Richmond, it's trying to find that mix of product that's forward enough to be interesting, but that also is going to sell. And I think that's probably been a challenge for us in Richmond the whole time we've been in business. And I actually think it's one of our strengths online is that we have this broad mix of product that differentiates us from other retailers. And I think that comes from our roots of being here in Richmond. And Richmond's a lot more like every other city in the world than probably Manhattan is or LA. So I think that challenge turned out to be the reason that we've done so well online at this point.
Chris, you've been in this business now for nearly 2 decades. What sort of advice would you give to someone else out there who might be listening who is thinking about starting a similar venture, something retail focused? What are the sort of key mistakes to try not to make?
I think there's a lot of really creative people out there in retail, but I think the ones that survive, there's probably 2 things. You've got to watch your overhead and manage the finance side of the business, or you won't survive. And you've got to reinvent yourself constantly. As soon as you get comfortable, you've got to ask yourself, okay, this is getting easy. Let's throw all of these ideas away and start over from scratch.
What are the key sort of traits or attributes that you look for when you're hiring a new staff member, whether it's someone who's customer facing, sort of on the shop floor, or working more behind the scenes?
A lot of it is just the character and the person. We look for good people, people that we actually would like to hang out with. They're going to interact with all the other people, and if you get someone in there that maybe just doesn't mesh, you know, they can really throw off the vibe. We look for people that are somewhat selfless, you know, kind of team players. Team is really big with us. We really reinforce that all the time here. This isn't going to be built by one superstar. We just don't have that kind of a team. It's really a group effort. And that's really how it started, from the little small group of people that were literally doing, you know, 5 jobs. And we've grown a little bit, but we still look for that kind of quality of character in a person. That's a big part of what we try to attract.
Over the past couple of years, there have been a lot of fashion-related companies that have launched online-only businesses. They're not having any sort of brick-and-mortar store experience. For these types of companies, it seems the big challenge is presenting the brand experience and sort of who they are and what they represent. In many cases, they can only do it online because they don't have the brick-and-mortar store like you guys do. For companies like that, what do you see as the biggest challenges for, you know, representing who they are to their customers online?
It's building some kind of a connection with the customers, and online, obviously, that's a little bit harder to do because you don't have that face-to-face. So you have to find other ways to do it, really. You know, that's part of why we have that Human Being Journal. We have a blog that is, you know, we put a lot of energy into, and I think we cover diverse topics. We try to really share with people that there is a culture behind what we're doing, and I think that's the same challenge that other stores will have if you're looking at that same kind of thing that we are, with that idea of long-term growth and wanting to be around through the changes that just naturally happen in fashion.